Hey everyone, welcome to our third build stream. Many more to come. Got an exciting one for you guys today. First, I wanted to just go over the purpose of these streams and kind of a couple of things that we've done to maximize the impact of them. So again, the purpose of these streams is to create great content that people are going to find useful on YouTube, and all that new attention that we get on the videos is going to raise awareness for Blue and for Book. We also are going to be building something today that's going to directly let people kind of contribute and pump the projects if they are, getting value out of these videos. So the first thing that we did is I've been working with a community member, Elmer. I'm sure you guys probably know him. He makes a ton of great music videos for our projects and for other projects. So I've been working with him. He's been editing some of the videos that we've already done to create kind of a polished video that we can use on YouTube that is really not meant to feel like a live stream. It's more meant to feel like an instructional video. So we've got a new channel set up that's going to be storing all those videos for us. So if you guys can just help out the YouTube algorithm a little bit, I'm going to link that channel. And we're not actually streaming on that channel. This channel is going to be just for like the polished videos. So I just posted that to the chat for you guys. And our first video is actually live there. It's the crypto calculator, compound calculator build. So I'll link that as well. If you guys can go in there and give that channel a quick sub and also like the video, that'll help the YouTube algorithm there. And we're going to keep pumping out a ton of videos to this channel. So like even like today's video, we're going to be able to break up today's video or today's live stream into numerous videos for that channel. Stuff like setting up how to securely and safely deploy a Web3 dApp using AI, or more specific, like what exactly we're building today, like how to build from zero to finished in one stream. So we're going to be pumping out all kinds of great content to that channel, which you can kind of see right on my screen here. So it's brand new, but it's I'm confident that as we keep adding more content and keep polishing it and learning to optimize the videos better, we'll keep gaining more traction and getting more views and on these videos. And yeah, I mean we're talking about Blue and Book in the descriptions of the videos. And obviously, like while we're building stuff, everything that we're building is going to be basically intended to improve the ecosystem for Blue and or Book. So great developments there. Let's talk a bit about what we're going to be building today. So I've had a lot of really great ideas. We've also got a lot of great ideas from the community. So what we're going to be building today, I'll go over some of the ideas that I've had as well, just to get you guys feedback on that. But so a community member brought up a donation app. So basically what that's for is if someone's watching the content that we're creating and they're getting good value out of it, like maybe they've built their first crypto app and they're making some money and they were able to do that because of our videos and they want to give back, well, donation is going to be like just an optional way for anyone that's kind of gained something from the videos to be able to donate crypto, which we'll use to basically pump the ecosystems, right? Like whether that be a buy and burn on Blue and Book. We can talk about the exactly how that's going to work during the stream. But I think the important part to build is we'll just build a really simple crypto smart contract on BNB chain, along with a dApp, which will track like all the donations that have come in and just really give users a really simple way to connect their wallet and either donate some BNB, donate some USDT, USDC, or we'll figure out which currencies we want to support. So let me know what you guys think about that idea, and then we can jump into it in a second. Just to quickly touch on like some of the ideas that I've had myself. So the kind of ideas that like really excite me, I mean, we've gotten a lot of great ideas from the community. So actually, let's talk a little bit about what makes an idea a good idea for these build streams. We basically want something that preferably we can build at least a version 1 of it from like scratch to like fully deployed all in a single session, ideally. I mean, we will build some things that are more complex than that in the future, which might have like a numerous part series. But we really want to focus on things that we can build fairly quickly. We also want things that are preferably going to help our projects, right? So a utility for Blue, a utility for Book. or a utility for MSS, or something along those lines. So we want something that's people are going to want to use, that's also not going to take way too long to build or be too hard for people to understand in a build stream, and stuff that's going to really help the ecosystem. So I've got a couple of pretty good ideas already that we can do for future streams, and I just want to give you guys some insight to some of these ideas so that you guys can maybe in your own time expand on them, or maybe you guys can come up with your own ideas based on the ideas that I've had. So like stuff that excites me is I like experimental or fun type crypto dApps, where maybe that's something that could be something that's like deeply integrated with like V3 liquidity, like single-sided liquidity, some kind of staking dApps, or just any kind of like experimental, or just anything wacky that we can come up with, where it's like you deposit this token and something happens, or I've got a lot of more fine-grained ideas, but I'm not going to really get into like the specifics of it until we start building those things. But I mean, those are the kind of things that like I think are really fun to build when you have like math and you have like integration with other DeFi projects like V3 liquidity, or or any kind of liquidity, just anything that's fun that people can interact with. And I use the word experimental a couple times because I think that it just things that people haven't tried before, right? Like let's just come up with random things that we can do with Blue and with Book that that people would want to interact with. Another fun one that I was thinking of is a lot of tokens, people end up creating like a baby version of that token. And that's something that I've done in the past. So another, like a project that I had in the past was called a Peg Hub. And we had a baby Peg Hub token. Those are really fun to do, and they're not too difficult. So I think that'd be something, a baby Blue, like that, the name works really well. So I think that's something that we could build at some point. So, let me know your feedback on that, guys. And again, for anyone that's not familiar, the way that a baby token works, and we could change up the logic a little bit, but essentially the way that a baby token works is there's a tax on the token, and the tax is used to buy the main token. So if it was a baby Blue token, every time somebody bought or sold baby Blue, it would buy Blue on the open market, and it would use that to reward the holders of baby Blue. So that's just like a fun thing that we could build that would put some more buy pressure on Blue or on Book, whatever we decide to build it for. I mean, we could build one for both, and then we could build a cool front end for it that just shows stats and shows your position, stuff like that. So I think that's a really fun one that we could do another time as well. So let me know what you guys think of those ideas. But yeah, let's jump right into this one. So we're going to do a donation app where basically users are able to connect their wallets and they can donate crypto to support the building of the creation of these streams, and support the Book and the Blue project by donating crypto. For anyone that just whether they've made some money through our projects and they want to donate to give a bit back, or they anyone that's enjoying the videos that has really gained a lot of value from the videos that wants to give back to the projects, this is the way that they do it. So, and what we'll do is once this is built, we'll have this link in all of our videos, right? So here's our video description for this polished video that we've already created. And, we'll have this as like one of the first links here that says, hey, have you gained value from this video? Then, feel free to donate to, show us your appreciation. So if you guys have any feedback on the idea, or any, maybe twists or comments about how that could look, or any opinions, I'd love to hear it. But while I'm waiting for you guys to give some feedback, we can just jump right into it. So like usual, I'm going to, because we're building something that's a smart contract and a dApp, and a front end all together in one, instead of doing things separately, I'm going to do things the same way that I've been doing them when we're building things like that from scratch, which is we're going to jump into Scaffold-ETH2. So let me zoom in a little bit on that. And again, I'm just going to do this all from scratch so you guys can follow along. So what I've got set up here is just a terminal with cursor open, and we are just going to jump in and start building with Scaffold-ETH2. So I'm going to copy this command right here to get started, and I'm going to actually jump into our folder. I think I called it Building Live. Yep. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see better. So let's, I'm going to paste this command in, and then I'm going to give our project a name. So I press space just to be able to give it a name. let's call it donation DApp, I guess. That looks good. So now this is going to install Scaffold-ETH2 for us in the folder donation DApp. And again, I'm just going to go over some of the, I think I'm probably taking all the defaults here, but so now it's asking what Solidity framework do you want to use? So I'm really familiar with Hardhat, so I'd suggest most people probably stick with Hardhat there. I guess that's the only question it's asking. So we'll just wait for that to finish. So once this is done, we're going to open up this folder in Cursor so we could see all of our files. And again, we've used Scaffold-ETH2 on previous projects, but I'll just go over the structure of it again real briefly. It's, because we're coupling smart contract development with front-end development, those are kind of two separate things, but we're kind of building them all together in one, which gives us a lot of advantages, but it slightly complicates the structure of the project. So I'm just going to jump into this folder, building live, donation DApp. So what this is going to do is it's going to open up Cursor in that directory that we just created for our new project. There's a couple different ways to do that. That's just one way to open that up. But so now you can see that we've kind of got a new Cursor screen open here with all of our files there. So you guys might notice I'm actually using a keyboard shortcut to open up the terminal. It's Control and then the key that's beside one. I forget what that's called, apostrophe or the tilde key. So and my terminal wanted to update there, so you won't usually see that. But so okay, so here we are. We're in the terminal and we're in Scaffold-ETH2. So all of our packages would have already been installed. That happens automatically when we just set up Scaffold-ETH2. So we're pretty much ready to go here. So just to show you guys, we can just go yarn start here, and we're going to get our default project is going to be ready to go. I'm just going to close out these other things that we had open. So this is taking a second to start up for the first time. So this is, I don't think I showed you guys this in previous streams, but this is basically what the default Scaffold-ETH2 looks like right when you just start it up without having pretty much like anything done yet. So it's complaining right now because the default, so it's set up to use like a default local chain, which actually we can get going just to, this is the more proper way to kind of build, is to like develop on a local chain. So you're not actually deploying anything to like production real chains. So we can just go yarn chain, and that's going to start up a local chain here for us. So that's done. So I think this works now. Oh, we actually probably need to, so this comes with like a demo smart contract, just called like your contract. So I think actually it might want us to deploy that, but we'll leave that alone for now. But you can see that everything's all set up and running. We've got our wallet connected. This is not actually our wallet. This is just like a demo wallet that's part of the whole development environment here. So I'm just going to leave the front end running, and I'll leave the chain running as well. So to fire up our AI editing, we're going to open up Claude Code. Because it's already integrated with my editor, I could just click this right here to start it up. But in case that's not the case for you guys, I'll just show you how to do it the other way. So I've already got Claude Code installed. And again, for anyone that hasn't installed this, it's I think it's right here. You basically can just Google Claude Code and follow the instructions here, and you just type Claude to start it up once you've got it installed. So I've already got it installed, so I can just go Claude and it's going to fire right up. Now I just accept this and we can start building. So one thing I'm going to do first, just because this is not a standard structure for a project, it's got, I started talking about this, but we've got Hardhat and Next.js within packages. So this is like a mono repo where we kind of have like two projects together and one kind of working together. Typically, if you weren't using this setup, you would have like a Hardhat package separate from your front end, and then you would kind of, it's a bit more difficult it's not too difficult, but there's a couple extra steps basically to get your front end to work with your smart contracts, where with this, it's all integrated the way that Scaffold-ETH2 has taken care of this. I'm not going to get too much into details about that, but I would just suggest if like Scaffold-ETH2 is a great starting point for any kind of EVM building, just because it gives you all this right out of the box. So let's get started with this. So the first thing I want to do actually is basically Scaffold-ETH2 comes with like everything here that you see here just got installed automatically with Scaffold-ETH2. I haven't done anything yet to this. So one thing you'll notice here is there's a .cursor directory, which has a bunch of like Scaffold-ETH2 rules, they're called. It kind of just like tells the AI how everything is structured. But because we're using Claude code instead of like using the built-in cursor AI, which would be like right here. So if we were using this, then this would use these rules to kind of know like what's going on. But what we can do to make kind of a Claude version of that is we can just go /init. /init is going to make us a claude.md file, which is going to basically tell Claude the structure of the project. And it's going to let Claude know a lot better, like basically like where everything's located and how our project is structured. And so it's going to do that by scanning all of our files so it knows what's going on. But it's smart enough to know that people might be like using cursor and then deciding to use Claude afterwards. So it's going to actually check this cursor rules. So all this great information here that tells the AI like where the packages are located, what are the important commands to run to get things going, all this stuff. It's going to actually see all that and kind of factor that into our claude.md file. So let's go ahead and run that. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to get this set up. Sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, sometimes I won't do an init right away, because sometimes I want to actually change a couple things up before I get Claude to kind of create that initial instruction file. In this case, I'm going to just let it create that file, then we'll update it later with more details about exactly what we're building. But for now, I just really want Claude to know, like, hey, if we're doing smart contract work, it's going to be in the Hardhat packages. If we're doing Next.js work, it's going to be, in Next.js packages. So like basically nothing's in like the actual root directory for this stuff, which is, it's specific to mono repos, but it's exactly what you're going to be dealing with if you're using Scaffold-ETH2. So this is stuff you don't really have to worry about if you're not using a mono repo like this. And we'll build plenty of other ways that don't use mono repos in the future. This makes it super easy to build front ends and contracts together. So let's go ahead and let that go. So I mean, just to review this super quick, you'll just see that there's these are all the scripts that we can run from the root directory. So like install the dependencies, yarn chain. That's what I actually am running right here to run this local blockchain. Yarn deploy. This is deploy smart contracts. Yarn starts the front end, which we're already running right here as well. So this just tells the AI how to do everything that we need to do essentially. And like the most important part, though, I'd say is the architecture part right here, where it kind of breaks down what's in the root directory and what's basically where our smart contracts are located, where our front end's located. So this is the really important part that we had to get in there. And I'm actually gonna, just from previous experience using this, I'm gonna show you guys how to like add a little bit of extra instruction. So there's one thing that I want Claude to never do, and which is, so because we're using a mono repo, we can basically run the commands within the Hardhat package and the Next.js package. We can run them right from the root directory. We don't need to go into those directories to actually run those scripts. And sometimes Claude is going to want to basically go into those directories instead of running everything from the root. So I'm actually going to like just add a little custom information to not do that. So like what I'm looking at here, package.json kind of shows like what scripts are available to your project. Like what can you do, right? So like, for example, chain is here, which you can see is actually running, Hardhat chain, which is running like yarn workspace, blah, blah, blah chain. So basically what this is doing is it's saying it's letting us run yarn chain from the root directory, but it's actually running Hardhat, like it's running the chain script from within the Hardhat directory. And you don't have to worry about how any of this works. This is all already set up for you. But what I want to just do is I want to make sure that Claude is going to actually just stay in the root directory instead of starting to go into some of the subdirectories, because it ends up causing confusion because it goes into a subdirectory, then it tries to start running commands from that subdirectory, but it really needs to be in the root directory, and it creates a bit of a headache. It's not a huge problem, but just something that I'm aware that it likes to do that. So I'm just going to try kind of like address that right at the very beginning. So again, if I want to give Claude any instructions to take into consideration for every single thing that we do with it, I can just add something to the claude.md file. So I can literally just go here and just say, never go into subdirectories. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it another way, which is, so the two other ways that you would do this is you can actually just tell Claude to add something to the claude.md file. So I can say, add to claude.md to, whatever I want. But there's actually a more direct, proper way to do it, which is if you put a pound sign as the very first thing as your input, you can see here, add to memory, try always use descriptive variable names. So what this is going to do is it's going to add whatever I type here, it's going to add it directly to the claude.md file. So let's go ahead and add something here. So let's say always run scripts from the root directory. If you need to run a script for one of our sub packages and it isn't available in the root, this should never really be the case because everything that we need should be available in the root directory. But just in case it's not, I'm just going to give it some extra info. So, and if you need to run a script for one of our sub packages and if it isn't available in the root directory, make a new script entry in the root to always be able to run scripts from the root. That's probably more complicated than I needed to put there, but so now it's asking me, do I want to save this in my user memory or my project memory? So this is I guess a cool feature of doing it this way. So if this is something that I want Claude to always take into consideration for all of my projects forever kind of thing, or I shouldn't say forever, but like in this development environment, not just this project, but like my user on this computer, I guess you could say, then I would pick the first option here. But because not all of my projects are monorepos, I'm just going to say, do it right in the project memory. So, and you can see here, so that actually put that in a really weird spot, but so pretty much exactly what I just typed, it just threw into the claude.md file. Now I put it under the network configuration category, which doesn't really make sense, but I'm just going to fix that. I mean, I'm sure it would still work, but I'll just say additional considerations. So I'm just like raw editing the claude.md file here, which you can definitely do. All right. So, and again, the reason that we're doing this is just to make sure Claude doesn't get confused and start like going into the Hardhat package to start running scripts. And then next, it's trying to, run a script for Next.js, but it can't because it's in the wrong directory. And it just, there's just a couple of headaches related to that. So, all right. So now we can jump right into building. So we're going to build, like I said, we're going to build a donation DApp where anyone that's finding our videos useful and they want to give back and kind of help the projects out, they're going to be able to, basically pick a currency they want to donate with, and they're going to, be able to pick an amount and submit a transaction. And then we will, I guess to keep things fairly simple, we'll store those cryptos in the smart contract, and we'll have like an owner address or an admin address that's able to withdraw those assets and kind of put them to work. And we can decide, we can put on the front end like exactly how we're going to break down the donations, like what's going to happen with them, just to give people some clarity on what their funds are going to be used for. But that's a bit more of the polished stuff. We'll tackle that a bit later. So let's get started. So let's just clear this and start from scratch here. So let's just say, so we have a fresh install of Scaffold-ETH2, which we will use to create our create a crypto dApp called donation dApp. So I'm just going to give it a bunch of information I'm just going to let it kind of decide a lot of things, but I'm going to give it a good description of exactly what we want to build. The purpose of this dApp will be to allow anyone to donate crypto to, actually, I guess just so that we can let it like kind of build some like the marketing sides of this, just to kind of explain. Like that's one of the strongest things that AI is like really great for, is like just producing content. So we want it like this dApp to kind of explain to people what they're donating for, like what the purpose of it is. So I'm just going to try and give it some background information here. So like some of this stuff is not going to be specific to like what it needs to build, but it's going to just help it to write the content for the build. So we have a YouTube channel called Build With Me and AI, and we are creating a lot of content to show people how to get started building with AI. All videos will be free to access, but in return, we will give people a way to give back and benefit the projects Blue Protocol and Book of Binance. I'm just going to say the 2 projects just so it's super specific, and benefit the 2 projects. We will build a smart contract that will store the donated crypto and track it so we can display on the front end. The contract will have an owner, which will be the admin address, which can withdraw donated crypto to put it to work or to use it to benefit the 2 projects. This will be done by doing buy and burns on the Blue and Book tokens. To keep things simple, we won't automate the buy and burn. We will just give admin access to the donated crypto. Let me think of what else we need in here. I think that's probably a pretty good start. I'm just thinking, do I want it to plan things out first, or should I just get it to start building? Well, let's get it to make a plan, and then we'll review the plan. Make a plan called make a plan document called plan.md in the root directory to describe exactly what we are building and the structure we will build for the smart contract and the front end. So we're going to do this with one extra step. Instead of just telling it, hey, start building, I basically told it, make me a file called plan.md that's going to basically outline exactly what we're building. And what that's going to do for us is that's going to give us like a great reference document that we can, so we're going to actually be able to, once we have this document, we can throw something into claude.md that says, hey, like reference the plan.md for detailed instructions or a detailed description of the project. So that way, like we can clear the chat as often as we want, and it's still going to have that reference to say, okay, this is exactly what we're building. This is how it should work. This is the structure of it, and all those details. Because if we didn't do that, like, we definitely could have just started telling it to build, but then there's could be a disconnect in the future if we clear the chat and we want to start working on something else. It's not going to have that background information. So let's take a look at what it's come up with. And so like we're not going to just review that. Like we're going to review this, but we're also going to edit anything that we don't like that it put in there. And we could either do that by manually editing it, or I can tell the AI to fix anything. So enables crypto donations to support blah, 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 build with me and AI. Okay. Create a simple user-friendly donation platform, track and display donation metrics, provide admin control. Okay. This looks pretty solid. Receive ETH and ERC20. Okay. So it's got some ideas for the smart contract. Yeah, this is all looks pretty straightforward and solid. So there's the donate address. And okay. Yeah, I mean, this all looks quite good. So there's actually a couple things I forgot to include here. So let's add a couple more details here. So I'm just wondering, do we want to test this locally? Yeah, maybe we will test this locally. So I'm just going to say add some extra details to our plan, MD. So we will build and test with the local blockchain, but for production, we will set up to deploy on BNB chain. Maybe I'm just debating if we want to only accept native token or if we want to accept other tokens too. It's not going to be as easy to test if we're accepting multiple tokens, but yeah, let's accept other tokens as well. So we will set up to deploy on BNB chain. The currencies we will allow to be donated will be native. So I guess BNB for production and USDC plus USDT. For testing locally, we will need to deploy test versions of USDC and USDT. But we need to be able to configure with the real USDT and USDC for production. So this is like one of the challenges that comes with like building locally and then deploying to production is like we want to integrate with tokens that exist on BNB chain, but when we're building locally on this local blockchain that we're running right now, this is like a brand new blockchain that has nothing on it whatsoever. So certain things that you build that don't interact with other tokens and don't interact with other existing protocols, you can fully build them, test them, and do everything locally. But when you start trying to interact with other tokens, now like for us to test that properly, we're gonna have to like deploy 2 test tokens, one to represent USDC, one to represent USDT, and that's what we have to do locally. But then when we go to deploy to production, we don't want to deploy test tokens. We want to actually just like put the USDC and the USDT address into the contract. So that's the reason why I'm kind of going into this detail here. So I think that's good. So now it's going to make a couple edits to our plan. And the last thing I'm going to do once this is done is I'm just going to basically add a reference to the plan in claude.md just so that it knows to kind of check that out as we're building. So it's making a bunch of edits to our plan. So for a project this simple, the plan was probably not necessary. If you're doing something that's more complex, where you're going to keep going at it with chat after chat after chat to, like new chats after new chat, then you're definitely going to want something like a plan or a super thorough claude.md file just to make sure that the AI has that background information that it needs. So it's adding a bunch of stuff here. Oh, those addresses actually look correct. Nice. I've memorized like the last couple digits of the USDC and USDT address, and those look accurate for BNB chain. Oh, it's making all kinds of edits. Oh, we're getting a lot of viewers on X. We've got like 70% of our viewers are watching on X. Welcome, X friends. All right, so our plan is updated. So now I just want to have one last thing. Update our, this isn't kind of just a bit of extra setup work just to make sure we're kind of in the right, we've got the AI has the right information to really build properly. So update our claude.md file to reference the plan.md. So yeah, that's for details about the build. So this should just put like a little note in claude.md that that basically we have a plan that kind of outlines everything. And again, we probably could have done that all in one file. We could have just had claude.md kind of store everything, but yeah, so see what it did there? It says for detailed product specifications, architecture, and development, see plan.md. So that's perfect. And it put a bit of extra information there about the build as well. And it's reminding us that we can use the pound sign to memorize anything directly into claude.md. So, all right, cool. So now we should be good to go. So let's just see where it mentioned plan. Yep, so for detailed product specifications, architecture, and development, see plan.md. So this is right in our Claude file. So it's basically going to know to check plan if it ever needs to know any details about our build. So that's good to go. So I'm going to clear the chat now. So this is like a brand new conversation. We're just going to start. We're going to get it to start building. So let's build our donation DApp. I'm just going to give it reference to the plan again, even though it should already know about it. So I put the @ sign there, which you can use to kind of reference a file. So I put @plan, and I can just press enter to, basically knows plan.md now. Let's build our donation DApp based. Oh, I probably should have put the word on. Based on the description, and based on the requirements. Again, the wording doesn't really matter too much, but let's build our donation DApp based on the requirements in plan.md. What else do we really need? I think that's, our plan is quite thorough, so I think that should be okay. Oh, let's let it build. Actually, one more thing I want to say. I'm already running the dev server. So it always wants to start the dev server. So basically, I'm already running it. So I'm just letting it know that it's already running. I'm already running the dev server and already running the local blockchain. Once the smart contract is ready to be tested, we can deploy it locally. We will worry about deploying to production BNB chain once it's built, polished, and thoroughly tested. All right, let's let it go. Well, this is probably going to take a while. Does anybody have any questions about kind of like why we structured anything the way that we did, or any comments, or if you guys, if you guys ever have any ideas for future build streams, definitely feel free to drop them in. I think so far most of the things we've built have come from community suggestions. Well, while this is building, I'm going to run to the washroom, and I'll see you guys back in a couple minutes. All right, I'm back. So now it wants to test. Let's before we look at anything that it's done, let's go ahead and test. Hey, I'm back. Oh. So we haven't looked at any of the code yet. We're kind of just letting it run its own tests. It looks like it hasn't done anything with the front end yet, because we'd see instant updates there if it did. So now it wants to deploy everything. So this is going to deploy to our local network, which is, again, what we're running here. And just to show you guys again, so I just closed this. All I did to do this, I just ran yarn chain. And you can see we actually got an error on our front end because it disconnected from the blockchain. So basically, this is like almost like running your own mini blockchain on your computer. That's pretty much exactly what it is. So I ran it again. It's the same thing. So let's let it deploy. So as soon as I press yes here, I'm going to switch back to the blockchain. You're going to see it do a bunch of stuff. So we should see a bunch of stuff starting to come up here. Maybe. Oh, it looks like there was a problem. Let's actually put Claude up here, and then we can kind of watch both at the same time. So I just told it to deploy. So if there's no errors, it should deploy a bunch of, yep. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that just happened there. So excellent. The contracts have been successfully deployed. Let me update the to-do list and start working on the front end next. Okay, so while it's doing that, let's take a look at what it built. So it didn't get rid of the demo contract, which is fine. So we created a donation contract, a mock USDC, and a mock USDT. So for production, we're only going to use the donation contract, but for testing on local testnet, because nothing exists there yet, we're going to be using those. So okay, so let's take a look at the contract. Multi-token donation contract for Build With Me and AI YouTube channel, support native currency and ERC20 tokens, funds support Blue Protocol and Book of Binance through buy and burn mechanisms. Very nice. So I can see right out of the gate, we're using the ownable and reentrancy guard, Open Zeppelin contract like helpers. So let's see the donation structure. Okay. Again, I'm just to make sure that everybody can follow along. I'm not going to be editing any code myself. I'm going to make sure that AI does it all. Okay, so let's actually see what we got here. So smart contracts have been successfully deployed, ready for testing. Ready for the next phase. The contracts are now deployed and ready for front-end integration. You can test the contracts through the debug tab. Okay. So did this actually build anything for us yet? Navigating to the homepage. Got a question here. What are the differences between test chain, BSC net, and locally yarn chain? A great question. So, so basically, like this is like a really important thing to understand. So there's basically 3 different places you can deploy. You can deploy to a local chain, and a local chain is basically like a brand new blockchain that you're firing up just strictly for testing. So you can test against that. And, you know, when you start up that blockchain, it's giving you addresses that have like 10,000 ETH because again, it's a test dummy network. So that's like, generally that's where you want to do all of your initial testing because it doesn't involve any network that's outside of like your local computer. So whenever possible, that's like really how you should be testing things. Now, as you mentioned, there's like a test BSC, like pretty much every mainnet. So like BNB chain also has a BNB testnet. So that's kind of like the BNB testnet is where you would kind of want to test integrations with other protocols, perhaps that are also deployed on testnet. It's kind of like just like the evolution of like building a dApp or building like a project is like, I mean, the best practices way to do it typically would be to like test it locally on your local chain. Then you could graduate to testing it on like BNB testnet, which is, you know, you can still get BNB for free, like testnet BNB. And then once you're sure everything's working, because like so actually probably the main reason that you do this is that there are some small differences between blockchains. I mean, generally EVM chains are all compatible with each other, but there can be some minor differences, like especially things like block timing, gas costs, stuff like that. So when you test on the test net of the mainnet that you plan to deploy to, you get like a bit of a closer reproduction of like what your production deployment is going to be like, right? So like if you test it on BNB testnet, you can be pretty sure that it's going to work the same way on BNB mainnet when you go to deploy it to production. That's not the best explanation, but that's pretty good. Hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to skip the BNB testnet phase this time. We're going to just be testing locally. And because I know that we're not doing anything crazy here. Everything that we're doing here is going to work on any EVM chain. So I'm just going to skip the BNB testnet part. Actually, so another good use for like something like BNB testnet would be if we want to have like a bunch of different people test this, right? If we're building something that's more complex, something that has a lot of moving parts, we might want to deploy to the testnet to let other people test it as well. Or something else that you can do is you can also test integrations with other projects. I mean, there's a lot of different uses for like using the testnet. But for like considering that what we're doing doesn't integrate with anything else, and we really don't need other people to test it, there's really not much need for us to like use that stage, I guess you could say. But that is another option, right? Like if you would rather test using the testnet as opposed to locally, the thing is that that has all the complications of deploying to production, right? You need to have like a private key that has testnet BNB. So it's got some of the complications of deploying to production. And I mean, it does definitely have some benefits, but those benefits are not benefits that we're going to realize right now. So that's why we're going to kind of skip that step. But that's a great question. All right. So I thought it said it was going to do the front end stuff, but I don't think it really did. So let's just tell it to, let's just say, all right, the smart contract looks great. Let's build out the front end and let's build out the front end. Let's now build the front end. It should be modern looking and polished. Not the best description there, but I think that'll do the trick. Yeah, let's do that. Again, I could have started a fresh chat there. Our chats have been pretty short so far, so I mean, there's not a huge need to clear it and start over again. So while this is building, I'll just talk a bit more about that same question that just got asked. So if you did want to test on BNB testnet, that's literally as simple as telling the AI that, when I first said we're going to be testing locally and then we're going to deploy to BNB production, you could have just switched that up to say, hey, we're going to test on BNB testnet, and for production, we're going to go to BNB mainnet. Or you could have all three, right? It really is just simple English that you got to just tell the AI, and it'll do whatever you want. So you can see here, creating modern landing page with project introduction. So this is the reason why I gave it so much information in one of those first prompts that said, like, we're building this for this YouTube channel to benefit these projects. I gave it like a lot of background information that had nothing to do with the build, but it gave it that background to be able to build out this content. And this is where we're going to see the benefits of that. Because now it's going to know what to actually put on our landing page to make it look polished and proper. Like I probably should have actually given it the actual links to the YouTube channel. I can give that in the next prompt, just so it could actually link to the YouTube channel. And I mean, we could build on this in the future too, to have maybe show all the YouTube videos automatically, or there's a lot of cool things that we can add to this in the future. Okay, so it's already got a little bit of a start here. Build with me in AI. Support free educational AI content through crypto donations. Your contributions help fund Blue Protocol and Book of Binance through buy and burn mechanisms. View stats. Donate now. So we can see so far we only have the one page, the home page, and let's see what that does. Okay, so we actually do have a donate page. It just didn't add it to the menu yet. Let's see if this works. I guess we'll let it finish building. So I don't know if you guys noticed what I just did there, but so it created me like a temporary wallet that I can use just for testing here. And so I noticed that I had like 0 ETH. So I just hit this button a bunch of times and it just gave me 1 ETH every time I hit that. So now it's going to be up to 9. And it's going to be up to 10. So you can see it's 10 ETH now. So I just given me some tokens to test with. I don't like how this is looking. It doesn't look that great. It doesn't look that good on light or on dark. So we'll get it to fix that afterwards. So something else that I like to do is, so for example, for like the Blue BNB website, what I did to build this is I actually used a different tool to actually generate the design. And I kind of iterated back and forth on the design a little bit. And then I took this and brought this into my project for Blue BNB. And then I used Claude to kind of like further keep tweaking it and refining it and like to build in the actual smart contract functionality. So like that's something that I would prefer to do if I was like building a production grade dApp where like I really want to nail a certain look or a certain really high quality feel to it. I probably wouldn't start with the Scaffold-ETH layout or design, but we can do a project like that way another time. So let's let this keep building. This thing's annoying. It keeps showing up. Oh, there we go. All right, the donation dApp is complete and ready for production use. So let's take a quick look at what it's done. Oops. So landing page, donation interface, statistics dashboard. Okay. So let's just take a quick look through. Every time I keep resizing this, it keeps scrolling up. That's okay. So explore the platform, about the project, support the mission. I mean, it did a pretty good job getting the content in there. I don't like how it looks really, but it looks like it's got the functionality that we need. All right, so let's get it to fix the styling a little bit first before we go any further. So let's say the site looks too similar to the default Scaffold-ETH2 design. I'd like something more unique. Also, the light and dark modes both have text that is difficult to read, especially the titles with gradients. I like the look of gradients, but we need to ensure the full text is able to be read on the various backgrounds for dark and light. I mean, to be honest, this stuff does not look that great at all. Also, our components, like so something else that I should probably touch on here is that generally you don't want to give it too much work to do all in one prompt. Like I'm kind of going into like multiple things that I wanted to fix. They're all UI related, so I'm just gonna keep going. But for more complex things, you probably want to just give it one thing to do, let it finish that, make sure it did a good job of that, and then move on to the next thing. But just because these are all like, they're kind of related, they're all based on like design, I kind of want to give it a bit more feedback on what I don't like about the current design. So hopefully it can just kind of, one shot fix it and make it look a lot better. Our components, like the donation component, look, how can I describe this? Look very basic and ugly. Let's change it to look more natural and beautiful. I mean, this is really a bad description. You guys can do a lot better than this, but let's just see what we come up with. So, I mean, I think here, like what I didn't do a good job of is I'm not telling it like why I don't like it. So, I mean, generally, if you wanted to fix how something looks, like should probably tell it like, I don't like the way that you select tokens or the way that you input an amount. We should, make it look like this instead. So I'm giving it like super generic, like, oh, it's ugly, make it beautiful. I mean, that can work too, but it's kind of hit or miss if that's going to work for us, but let's just see what it comes up with. I mean, I think just in general, the design of this is not that great, but so this is probably one of the bigger challenges that you'll face if you're starting with Scaffold-ETH2 is it's not a huge thing to overcome, but the default design of Scaffold-ETH2 is not the greatest looking thing. It's convenient how it has everything already all built in, but yeah, the design of it's really not spectacular. So, and again, while this is fixing everything, I'll show you guys. I'm going to go into like the debug quite a bit because this is like one of the huge advantages of using Scaffold-ETH2. So on our test network here, we've deployed the donation contract, the mock USDC, and the mock USDT. So keep in mind, there's no block explorer when you're developing locally. So you can't just go on like BSC scan and start like looking at what your contracts are doing or, interacting with the contracts. You don't have that option when you're basically working locally. So the debug tab of Scaffold-ETH2, and this all comes right out of the box, this is incredibly useful. So what this lets you do is, for example, mock USDC, we can see all the different parameters that, this contract has exposed. We can interact with the contract. This is the exact same thing as like interacting with it through like BSC scan or like even through a DApp. But the cool thing about this is like we can make any change to the contract, and as soon as we deploy it, the automatic deployment process of Scaffold-ETH2 will basically recreate a file in our front end that essentially tells this debug exactly how our contracts work. So for example, if we have something called donations here, if we added a new function called top donations that shows like the top 3 donations, let's say, as soon as I save that in the contract and deploy it locally, we're going to see that show up here without ever having to even touch the front end code. So like that's like crazy useful. I mean, in addition to that, if you're ever like doing any editing, like, so if you're in the front end, so Next.js has our front end. So keep in mind, this is a separate package from Hardhat, right? So our smart contract work is all happening in Hardhat. Our front end work is all happening in Next.js. But as soon as you make any update to contracts and deploy them, when you're working on the front end, it's going to be aware of all of those changes immediately. So you can start using some of those new functions that you either added or, if you remove something, it's going to start giving you errors that you're trying to access something that doesn't exist anymore. So that whole process happening automatically just makes the development experience a lot easier and better in a lot of ways. Because there would be some manual work otherwise, right? Like, so if you're making changes to how your contracts functions look, or you're adding new functions or removing functions or whatever you're doing there, if you don't have this tight coupling between your smart contracts and your front end, then you're basically gonna have to like take what's called like the ABI of your contract, which is basically like instructions of like how you can interact with that contract. You're gonna have to like keep manually moving that over every time you make changes, which is it can be a bit of a pain. So I mean, so with Scaffold-ETH2, you can easily work on your contracts and your front end, and they'll always be kind of up to date with each other. Where like if you're doing it separately, which I mean, I do it separately a lot. It really depends on what I'm building. Like, so for example, with Blue BNB, I forked the Olympus DAO code base, which was the contracts. So I had that separate from the front end. So I wasn't using Scaffold-ETH2 for that. But like once I had, the contracts in the right state, like I basically didn't even work on the front end until the contracts were done. Right. So like that way I didn't have to keep moving stuff back and forth. But just to kind of explain some of that to you guys. So let's see, apparently it's done. So let's go take a look at, I don't really need to read that. Let's just see how it looks. That looks horrible. So something got messed up there. Okay, this looks a lot better. That looks much better. All right. Well, the stats page is still super ugly. Okay, so that's pretty cool. All right, so let's first fix this homepage. The donation page looks much better now. The home page has a nice style and color scheme, but something is wrong with the hero section at the top. All the elements are side by side. See, it's good that it messes up though, because I can show you guys like when you don't get what you're looking for, like how do you address that? Like how do you fix that? And you can see I'm just talking in plain English, like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what we got. So, you know, we need to fix this. So all the elements are side by side, even on desktop with a wide display. It looks like some of these elements should be, or wait, that doesn't make sense. Even on a desktop with wide display, it looks like some items should be stacked as opposed to everything side by side. Let's get it to fix that first. Then I'll get it to fix the stats page after. I mean, we should be ready to test this pretty soon. So that wallet that it was showing as the admin wallet, that's I believe that's the first test wallet that it makes, which we can check that real quick. So if I go in here and I scroll all the way up, oh, I can't go up enough. That's okay. Well, actually, you can see all these things that it's doing. It's doing it from this address that ends 2266. That is the admin address. So that's like the I believe that would be like the very first address that it creates when you do the local blockchain. Like it gives you like 20 different wallets that you can use, and it shows you all the private keys. But the very first one, I believe, is that 2266 wallet. Oh, that does not look right. Maybe no. So the elements are still all side by side and looks very odd on desktop. I mean, it doesn't, I can check how it looks on mobile. It's not any better. Even when I resize my browser to be much thinner to represent mobile display, the items are still not stacking. They check why this is and fix it. This looks like it's going to look pretty good once it's done. So, I mean, I'm imagining that this is supposed to be at the top. Like maybe like these things should be like on the top. Then below that, you would see like the buttons. And below that, you would see the stats. But for some reason, it keeps putting everything side by side. Oh, so this is kind of stupid. So we're using Tailwind CSS for styling, and it randomly decided to start doing regular CSS, which doesn't make sense if we're using Tailwind for everything else. So basically now it's just we're gonna fix this in a sec. So I mean that does look a lot better, but I don't like the way that it fixed that. I mean, again, so if you guys are doing this stuff and like this is fine, you can just leave this as it is. It's not a huge deal, but like I just know that we should be using Tailwind. Like this project, it uses Tailwind to style things. So generally you want to use Tailwind for all the styling. You don't want to, use partial Tailwind and then like partial custom CSS. Like that doesn't really make sense. So I'm just going to tell it, we are using Tailwind CSS for styling. Please implement all styling with Tailwind and don't use custom CSS. It's not ideal to have a mix of Tailwind with custom CSS. Let's make it better for future development and clean by sticking with only Tailwind styling. So Tailwind is super popular. So like AI knows Tailwind like really, really well. So you're absolutely right. Using a mix of Tailwind and custom CSS creates inconsistencies and makes maintenance harder. Let me convert everything to pure Tailwind CSS for a cleaner, more maintainable code base. That's exactly what we want. So if we just look at some stuff it was doing, so this is like custom, this is like standard CSS, like how it's always been since like, you know, CSS was created. Tailwind is like a whole different way of doing CSS. And I don't know if it's worth getting into the exactly how that works now, but it's, you know, basically Scaffold-ETH2 uses Tailwind, and everything that you see like when you first install it would have been set up with Tailwind. So it kind of just makes more sense to stick with that. And like I've never actually had that problem before, or else I would have probably mentioned that earlier in the Claude file or in the instructions. So now it's removing custom CSS and converting to Tailwind. So as you guys can see, it's still messed up at the top, but I should be fixing that right now. And so like the reason why this didn't work at first is because there's a bunch of Tailwind in there, and then it made a bunch of custom CSS, and the custom CSS wasn't working properly because the Tailwind was overriding it kind of. And then it kind of made a hack to just say, it kind of just like increased the priority of its custom CSS, which is a really hacky way to do it, which is why I wanted to fix that. So now you can see it just looks, it looks a lot better now. And now it's done properly with Tailwind. Again, there's nothing wrong with doing like regular CSS, but you should probably try to be consistent. Again, in your own projects, guys, you can do this however you want. I'm just like showing you ways that I like to do it. So, you know, like for one, I like Tailwind in the first place. So I generally would set up something brand new with Tailwind anyways. But especially like if you're forking something or you're using like a starting point that already is using Tailwind for styling, it just makes sense to stick with that and keep using Tailwind throughout. So if you guys want to read about Tailwind, I'll drop a link into the I'll drop a link into the chat that you guys can check out. So you can see like, you know, the way it's defining styles like in line. It's kind of like a very different way of doing things, but I'll paste that into the chat for you guys. So because our conversation went on for so long, it's actually doing, it's compacting the conversation. So this is, I mean, this is fine, but generally, especially for something this simple, I usually would have probably cleared the conversation before it got to this point. Because like, so this is the reason why you want to clear the conversation is like our conversation now went on so long that it can't keep extending the conversation because the context window isn't big enough. So what it's doing now is it's kind of like reviewing the entire conversation and it's going to summarize it so that we can proceed with the conversation. But the conversation history is now a summarized version. It's not like the full actual conversation that we were having. So, you know, every time that it does this, you're going to like notice that the quality of what it's producing is going to get worse. And, you know, it's generally, it's, you know, you definitely want to be clearing the conversation and starting fresh fairly often. But, and like with Claude Code, it tells you how, you know, it basically shows you how close it is to needing to compact. So like that, you know, when it gets to 0%, it has to compact. But anyways, we'll just let this continue and we'll probably fire up a new conversation once we get past the styling. Okay, so now it's checking if there's any other pages that need Tailwind conversions. So it's trying to start the dev server, which I thought I told it earlier not to do that. But so I'm actually going to put in a little memory. Don't try to start the dev server or local blockchain. The user is already running these. So if we go over to our claude.md file, we should have a little note in there that says that. Yep, right there. Just put that like that too. Cool. All right, so that looks a lot better. I like it. So I don't like our header. Our header doesn't look great. So maybe let's maybe get this to fix the header and our stats page. So let's fix the stats page first. So our homepage and donation page look great now, but our stats page still looks like the old ugly design. Let's keep consistent and use the nice new design on all pages. Actually, you know what? While we're in here, I'm just going to tell it to fix the header to make it look better. Also, our header still looks very much like the original scaffold. I'm going against some of my own rules here. I'm giving it like numerous things to do, and I'm carrying on a long conversation. This is stuff that you definitely wouldn't want to do in a more complex project or like where you're giving it more complex instructions. This is all just like, it's very basic though. So it's like, we're just saying, hey, improve the way things look. And, you know, that is really on theme with like what the rest of the conversation was. So that's kind of why I'm going against some of my own rules here with this specific couple prompts. Our header still looks very much like the original Scaffold-ETH2. Let's improve the design of the header to look great like our content pages. So after this, what we'll do is we'll start testing it. So we should be able to, I mean, we can start testing it right now, really. So I didn't really check if this faucet works, but let's see if, I wonder if we get, that was kind of weird. Oh, I guess maybe it just brings you over to the debug page. Okay. So it doesn't actually work as a faucet. Oh. What's going on here? Anyways, so let's see. I'm just copying this address. This is just some like temporary wallet address that it just defaulted to. So let's just see for fun. Can use wallet or can use faucet? Yes. Last faucet request? Never. Okay, so let's, all right, that was simple. So basically I just hit send on the faucet, and like, it's not like, it's like a built-in burner wallet, I guess they call it. So because of that, like, I don't need to approve the transaction or anything. It just kind of works. So now if I check these functions, it should say like no, because I think it's set up like you can only use this once every 24 hours. So yeah, so can use faucet. Now it's showing false. And if I go last faucet request, that's the timestamp of when I just used the faucet. So, I mean, this is really not necessary because we're using the faucet strictly for like local development. So there really doesn't need to be any safeguards for that, but that's okay. So now let's go get some USDT also. So I can just come in here, hit send. Oop. So something broke while it's building, but that's fine. It just fixed it. So this is some of the stuff you might run into if you're like trying to work with the front end while it's making big changes to it, but that's okay. So it looks like it broke something in the header. It should figure it out soon and fix it, though. It doesn't always figure it out. I might have to say, hey, you broke the header. I mean, the more things that it doesn't do right, though, I mean, really the better off we'll be for these streams, because, you know, I want to show you guys, like, when you run into something that you don't expect, or when something doesn't work how you want it to work, I want to show you guys how to, like, use AI to get around that. So this is, you know, the more things it messes up, the better, to be honest. So yeah, so this is great. So, I mean, it's great that I can show you guys now, because it's telling me that it's all done, but clearly something's not working right. You know, I'm refreshing this and it's still not working. Going to the homepage, still not working. So something's wrong in the header. So one thing that you guys can do is, I'm just going to copy this entire thing. This is like the easiest way to do it. Copy the whole error. The edits you just made. I'm just going to, like, not go into any detail at all. I'm just going to give it the error, basically. The edits you just made broke the site. Here is the error. So I'm just going to paste. And so I think because I keep resizing this, that's why it's kind of going crazy with the scrolling. But I mean, essentially all I did is I just said, the edits you just made broke the site. Here's the error, build error. Then it's just a, you know, a direct paste in of what I just copied. I see the issue. There's a syntax error in the JSX, blah, blah, blah. Let's keep scrolling. Let me check the complete file to identify the syntax. Okay, so I'll let it do that. It should be able to fix this like super quick. Let's see. Now it wants to build. No, I don't want it to build. So that's kind of interesting why I wasn't able to figure that out. Let's actually just restart the dev server just to make sure that the error does still exist. So what I did is I went to my dev server, I went Control-C to stop it, and I'm just going to start it again. So yarn start. Let's see if the error is still there, and if it is, then we'll just paste it in again. It always takes a bit longer to load the first time when you first start the dev server. Okay, so it looks like we're good to go. Oh, found a problem. All right, so again, we're gonna do the exact same thing again. We're just gonna say, all right, it seems the last issue is resolved. To be honest, this might have even been the same issue. I'm not sure, but all right, it seems the last issue is resolved. I can visit the main page and the donate page, but I get another error when visiting the stats page. Here it is. So again, I just pasted in the error right from the browser. Oh, see, this keeps, when I visit the broken page and I go back to another page, it's not working properly. But let's. So what I just stopped the dev server and started it again there. That's like something that you can do when troubleshooting. I mean, usually you don't have to do that. Like sometimes I'm leaving the dev server running for like the entire day. Usually it recovers pretty well from errors, but certain errors can trip it up. Yeah, there's something wrong. So let's figure this out. Unexpected token div. I think the issue might be that the JSX got corrupted during the multi-edit. Let me recreate the entire stats page with the correct syntax. Okay. So this is the kind of thing that, like, because our stats page is so simple and it's still like the early stages of the project, like I'm fully okay with it doing this, but this is the kind of thing that sometimes when you see something like this, you want to like stop it right away. Cause like, just say that you have like a more mature project and like you're having a problem on a specific page where it's already working 99% what you're looking for. And there's already been a ton of work put into it. Sometimes it'll just be like, oh, I can't figure it out. I'm just going to make a new page from scratch. And like a lot of times that's not what you want. So you would just want to stop it and say, no, let's just fix that little issue, whatever that issue might be, right? So in this case, I didn't really care. I was okay with it doing that, but all right. That looks pretty good. Again, I'm not on the right admin wallet, so this should just give us an error. Yep. Okay, pretty happy with all that. So now I'm just going to ask it. I'm going to start a new chat in 1 second, but this is the last thing I'm going to ask it in this chat. All right, the site seems to be working well now. Is everything ready for me to test on our local blockchain? I want to test. I will use the faucets and get some test tokens and then test out donations if everything is ready. So I'm basically just asking it, is there any more work that needs to be done, or can I just dive right into testing it out? I mean, I could just start testing, of course, but let's see what it has to say. Yep, everything's configured for local testing. Oh, I really got to stop resizing that. Smart contracts are ready. Front end is ready. Apparently, we have 40 tests that are all passing. Great. Okay, try USDC, try USDT, test with different amounts of messages. Okay. Yeah, okay, let's do it. So right now we're on like just like this is like a random like burner wallet, I guess you would say. So this is not the admin. So this should work. Whatever we're testing right now, this is what everybody would experience like once this is live. So let's go to donate. Actually, first, I don't think I ever ended up getting those testnet tokens for USDT. Did I? Faucet, send, done. So if I go to like, so this should actually fail if I try this right now. Yeah. Faucet cooldown not met. So that's pretty cool. I just wanted to show you guys that because like it wasn't necessary that it built that in, but it built in like the fact that you can only use the faucet once every 24 hours for any wallet address. So that was kind of cool to see. So let's go see if we can donate. So we've got almost 10 ETH that we can test with, and we've got actually. So one thing is it's not showing our balance, which is not ideal. Actually, I do want it to show our balances. On the donation component, please update it to show the user's balance of the token they selected or of native if that is selected. Donation successful. Thank you for your support. Cool. Pretty cool. You guys can see it, like it's actually like fairly polished for something that we just built in like less than an hour. That is quite a polished experience. Okay, nice. Now it's showing our balance. So we got 1,000 USDC. So let's, okay, so actually I wanted to get, I hate how these arrows look there where my mouse is. So I'm just going to tell it to fix that real quick. On the input where the user enters how much they want to donate, the text input has up and down arrows on the right side, which don't look good. Can you keep the functionality the same, but remove those arrows from appearing? So that should fix that. So let's go ahead and do a $500 donation of USDT. Build streams are the best. I love Blue and Book. Oh, so because it's, yeah, so pretty much it's doing like the approval and the donation like all super quick together in one, which is fine. Okay, so I'm going to connect with a different wallet now. Yeah, we can use this one, I guess. All right, so just to test this out, again, this is a wallet that this deployment knows nothing about this wallet, just like as if it was a random user. So first, let's grab some funds from the faucet. So this is going to grab a bunch of ETH for us. Now let's head over to debug, and let's grab some USDC and USDT. So right now I'm on the USDC contract, and let's get some test USDC. So now it's actually bringing up a transaction because now I'm using an actual MetaMask wallet as opposed to like a built-in burner wallet. But you can see the network is Hardhat. That's like our local network. Let's go ahead and get some USDT also. Now let's head over to donate, and let's donate 1 ETH. Great videos. So you can see that this transaction comes up, donate for 1 ETH. Okay. So if we look down here, this looks awesome. I'm curious how it must be using events to get this, I'm thinking. Because like that's generally, or maybe it's, we'll check it out in a second how it's doing that. So that was some ETH. So yeah, that's all looking good. Actually, I wonder, I might have the wallet in here that's the test wallet. I probably imported that at some point. Yeah, there we go. 43 million bucks of ETH. Let's go. All right, so this is let me disconnect this. This is going to be the wallet that's currently set up as the admin wallet. Because I guess like while I was testing in the past at some point, I would have imported this to MetaMask just to make it easier to test with. So this 2266 wallet is like the default wallet that's going to be like the main wallet when you're deploying locally. So like for any of you guys that are deving out there, you'll probably add that wallet to your MetaMask at some point. Like the way that you would do that, just for anyone that's curious, is when you first fire up the local blockchain, it's going to show you all the private keys of all those demo addresses, right? Actually, we can just do that. I'll show you guys real quick. So I'm just going to fire up so let's just clear this so you guys can see. It's going to run yarn chain. And I'm going to run nothing else after that. I'm just going to show you guys the output. So it just gave us 20 wallets. And you'll see the very first one is the 2266 wallet. And this is the private key. So you guys could just import that in MetaMask, and then you can interact with your private blockchain and have access to that main deployer wallet and all the 10,000 ETH that it gives you to test with. So that's how I did that. So now while we're running this though, now I've got to redeploy our contracts there. So, which is very easy. It's just a yarn deploy. So the AI did that for us last time, but just because I restarted the chain, which resets everything to scratch. So yeah, so now basically just redeployed everything and we are good to go. So I'm just going to actually clear the chat. There's a couple of things I want to check. So one thing I noticed is, I'm just going to show you guys first. If I go to debug, if I check the mock USDC and mock USDT, I notice it's using 6 decimals. However, I just happen to know that on BNB chain, the USDT and USDC they're actually using 18 decimals. So I just want to make sure that our DApp and our contract is properly handling the fact that different tokens can have different amounts of decimals. So I think I already cleared that. So I'm just going to say, I noticed that the mock USDC and mock USDT you created have 6 decimals. The USDC and USDT on BNB mainnet actually have 18 decimals. Can you confirm that our contract and front end are properly, don't know how to spell, properly handling decimals based on the decimals, are properly handling decimals? Since we won't be using a dynamic list of supported tokens, we are hard coding them at deployment. We can just force 18 decimals everywhere instead of looking it up from the token contract. In this case, we should switch our mock tokens to also use 18, just like it will use in production on BNB chain. So this is like a problem that comes up quite a bit because like USDC and USDT on Ethereum, I'm not 100% sure if they both do. I think they both do. They only go to 6 decimals, right? But like most ERC20s by default are going to 18 decimals. And I just happen to know that the USDC and the USDT on BNB chain are definitely going to 18 decimals. So this would cause problems if we didn't fix that. Because like, for example, like, let's just go to BSC scan. I'll show you guys how to look this up in case you ever need to. So let's look at the tokens, top tokens. We should be able to find USDT. So here's USDT. This is like the common USDT that everybody uses on Binance Smart Chain. We can just go look at this, and there's going to be a decimals right here, which shows 18. Hope you guys can see that. This is just something that I've been working with BNB chain for so long that I'm just super familiar with all these tokens. But generally, tokens have 18 decimals. It just that like the native deployment of these tokens on Ethereum has 6, which let's confirm that. So let's try USDC first. So let's take a look at how many decimals it's got. 6 decimals, right? So that's there's numerous different ways to kind of handle this, like how many decimals a token has. Generally, like in our case, we already know exactly what tokens we're going to be working with. We're working with just USDT and USDC, and I know that they both have 18 decimals, and there's no ability to like add new tokens in later. So we don't really need to make this like work with every single token, no matter how many decimals there are. But that is the better way to do it. So if you're building something where like, just say like we had the ability for the admin to add new tokens as potential tokens to be donated, then we should have a bit more logic in there that actually checks how many decimals the token has and makes sure to handle it accordingly, if that makes sense. See, I don't like, actually, I found another problem. So for some reason, let's just go look at this page for a second. So it is hard coding supported tokens, which makes no sense. Yeah, I don't like that. So so basically what it's done here is, this is like horrible practice that we're going to get at the fix right now. But so when we're deploying, well, the way that this should work is we should never really have token addresses hard coded in here like the way that it does. If we're hard coding anything, it should be like the production BNB chain USDT and USDC. For something like these tokens, where you just saw that I restarted the blockchain and I redeployed the tokens, what that did is that basically gave the contracts all new addresses. Now, it basically doesn't make any sense to hard code token addresses here, because just the structure of how this dApp works with Scaffold-ETH2 is we have all this information available to us, and I'll actually show that to you guys here. So there's, again, just so you guys can see what I'm doing. In the packages directory, there's Hardhat and Next.js. Next.js is our full front end stuff. So if we look at what's inside of Next.js, you have contracts here. So here you have deployed contracts. So this is showing, this is the Hardhat network 31337. it knows the address here for the donation contract. It knows the address of the mock USDC. It knows the address of the mock USDT. This is what gets updated every time I redeploy. So there's no reason at all for these addresses to be anywhere else in this app, because it can just get the most recent up-to-date address from our deployments. So that stuff should definitely not be hard-coded anywhere. But what it could do, though, is it could have like so external contracts is a really cool feature of this too, like Scaffold-ETH2. So what you would do here is you would add, like, for example, like we could add USDT and USDC here. Now, we're not really interacting with those tokens, those token contracts too much. We're pretty much just using it to like do an approval and then like use those tokens to do a donation. So you really don't need to go as intricate as like setting up USDT and USDC as an external contract. You would more do that for like if you had a contract that you wanted to like do more intricate things with, like you wanted to use like custom functions on it, or like pretty much if you wanted to like any contract that you want to interact with that you didn't deploy through Scaffold-ETH2, by far the easiest way to do that would just be to add it here. But because like the only function that we're calling on on those token contracts is the approval contract or the approval function, because of that, I mean, maybe we'll see what it does if it wants to set those up in here or not. But that's just kind of unnecessary for something as simple as that. So let's go get this to correct its mistakes. I'm going to clear this and start over. So I'm going to say, I noticed the testnet USDC and USDT are hard-coded in numerous places throughout our project. We have access to the deployed contracts.ts file, which has the latest deployments, address, and ABI of all of our contracts. We should always reference addresses from there and not have those temporary addresses all over the code base. Also, we need to ensure that we can use the real USDC and USDT on BNB chain once we deploy to production. Rework our logic to properly handle local development and production use on BNB chain. All right. Well, we've been almost streaming for 2 hours now, so I think I'm just going to get this tidied up a little bit, and we'll get this deployed, and we'll probably end it there for today. I think we've got something pretty good going for now. Oh, so now we can actually check out that admin page. So now I'm on the owner address. So this is super ugly, but this should allow us to withdraw funds. We'll try this in a second. Why did it put a delete button there? So this is something I didn't ask for. That doesn't really need to be there. See, and it said that it went over all the pages to make sure that it looks proper on every page, but clearly it didn't do that page. So while it's doing that, actually, this might break while it's let's just try. Let's donate 1 ETH. Test donation. Let's donate that. And let's go to the admin page and let's see what we can do. So we got 1 ETH. How much ETH do we want to withdraw? Let's withdraw 0.5 ETH. Okay. Now, because this does involve money, we should probably actually verify a couple of things manually in the contract. Like, let's look at our, like, primarily the most important thing is going to be our withdraw function to make sure that only the admin can do it. So this only owner thing is basically what handles that. It's like a modifier that pretty much like this all came for free with the by inheriting the ownable contract from OpenZeppelin, which you see right here. That basically exposes a bunch of like functionality that we can use. So a couple of things that you'll see is in our constructor. So the constructor is basically what this function gets called immediately when the contract is deployed. So one thing that it's doing is it's initializing the ownable contract, which is part of this contract because this inherited that. And it's setting the initial owner, which is, basically supplied when this is deployed. We can look at that in a second. But that's how it's setting up who the owner is going to be. And I'm probably going to change that in our deployment. I'll get AI to change it. So this is still working. See, this like drives me nuts with AI. Like it keeps defaulting to 6. It's like, it's trying to figure out like how many decimals these tokens have. And then it's like, it's trying to get the decimals from the contract and then it's defaulting to 6 if it doesn't, which like I specifically told it was 18, but that's okay. Oh, it looks like we have some kind of loop going on. Those errors just keep ticking up. Yeah, there's some kind of infinite loop going on right now. We'll get AI to fix it. That's fine. So I'm thinking just because this one involves real money, we probably want to like look over this one a little bit more in depth before we deploy this to production. We've already been streaming for about 2 hours, so I think maybe we'll do this in a 2-part, and we can see if any of the community has any ideas for how to improve this. So maybe next stream, what we can do is we can talk about different ways that we can improve this, or maybe we could even automate, having the donations buy and burn tokens. But there is still a bit more work that has to be done on this, and I definitely do want to check to make sure it's safe before having any of our users use it. So I think maybe we'll convert this one into a 2-part. But what I could do is I can deploy this to Vercel before we're done today. I'm not going to deploy the contracts though, the BNB chain yet. So we still got this infinite loop going on. There's some kind of issue that keeps showing itself again. Actually, let's get it to fix that first. I'm noticing some kind of infinite loop. I keep seeing Next.js errors coming up. Here is the console log output. So there's a couple ways I can get at the error. I was going to just copy out of the console log, but let's actually see what these errors say. Okay, pretty much the same thing. I'll just copy a bit out of the I mean, they're just the same error over and over again. So I just pasted up that console login, and I basically just told it that we have like an infinite loop problem, and then I pasted that in. I see the issue. There's an infinite loop on the use effect. Okay. It's like no matter what problem that you face, you can pretty much, as long as you can just like describe what you see, what the problem is, and especially if you can paste in some of like the error output, then I mean AI can pretty much take care of it. Like you don't need to be an expert to fix problems. And like that's why I'm trying to build things in a way where I'm just literally telling AI, hey, this is the problem that I'm seeing, and fix this for me. So our admin page has some problems. And it's still ugly. That's okay. You might need to restart the dev server, or maybe not. See, a lot of the problems that we're facing is because like it's a pretty different setup that we have for local testnet as what we have for production, right? So like we could have skipped a couple steps and like made it so like if we use just native currency for one, that would have made it a lot simpler. Because we're using like 2 custom tokens, and to use those on our local chain, we got to deploy dummy versions of them, essentially like the mock version. But then for production, we're not using our own mock version; we're using the real one. So it makes some differences between our test environment and our production environment, which causes some problems. So now we're getting more errors. So let's paste this in. So on our donate page, I am now getting this error. All right, guys, we're going to finish up here in a minute or two. And we can definitely finish this off at the beginning of our next build stream. But yeah, I mean, I discussed some fun ideas at the beginning of the stream. I'd love to, get some feedback on some of those ideas and, hear what you guys want to build next. Because I'm going to build all kinds of wacky stuff if you guys don't give me some direction. But okay, so this looks like it's fixed. We're not getting tons of errors anymore. So yeah, that looks good. Actually, one thing I'm curious about is if this is like actually retrieving this from the contract or if it's using events. Let's just go take a quick look at how that works. And I'm not going to like look in the code, so I'm going to do this in a way where like you guys could easily do this yourself, which is just to go into the debug. And now let's go over the donation contract. Now we can just see like the raw data. Oh yeah, so here it's right here. Get donations. So this is like a super, like it's not like super optimized for blockchain, but this is it's a really simple way to do it that works pretty well. So we're just basically, it's just storing everything right in the contract, right? Like who donated, how much, what time, what token did they donate, what was the symbol of the token they donated, and like what was the message. So this is like stuff that it will be saved forever in the contract. There's other ways to do this where it's like a little bit better for storage and gas costs, but for our purposes, this works quite well. So then here, this has our array of our tokens that we support. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, let's put the finishing touches on this and get it deployed to BNB chain next stream. And yeah, I mean, I hope you guys all enjoyed what we built today, and excited to get this finished up next stream. And again, if you guys can think about any ways that we can improve this before we deploy it, we can definitely get AI to do that for us. So again, just want to link to you guys again. We have our new YouTube channel specifically for these polished videos. So what is it at Build With Me and AI. I'm going to link this into the stream chat. Be sure to subscribe to that, guys, and to like our current video. We have Elmer from the community. He is taking our streams and he's polishing them up. He's making them into like really high quality videos that people can find on YouTube and learn how to build crypto stuff with AI. So definitely help out the YouTube algorithm there. Go and subscribe to the channel, like the video, watch the video till the end. It all helps the YouTube algo, and this is going to help raise awareness for the projects, and it's gonna do great things as we keep pumping out more and more content. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Actually, let me I'll link the video as well, so we don't need that time part at the end. Yep. All right. Well, happy building. I'll see you guys all next time. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. See ya.